Welcome to Backseat Confessions Podcast. Slide into the backseat as we listen to mostly anonymous strangers tell us stories from their lives. I'm a rideshare driver in Atlanta, and the people getting in my car have absolutely no idea I'm going to ask them to share. My commitment to you is to tell at least a snippet of virtually every story recorded in my car in the order they were told to me. My hope is that you laugh, cringe, cry, but mostly connect to these amazing people. You may find a piece of your own story or just feel more connected to the rest of us. Join us, won't you? So, hey, my new friend. This is an adult podcast. Themes and languages are definitely not suitable for everyone. Listener discretion is advised. Hello, my good people, and welcome to another action-packed adventure on this episode of Backseat Confessions Pod. I'm guessing you're going to enjoy each and every one of our riders today. But before we go for a ride, I'd love to hear from you, whether it's through social media on like Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, YouTube, LinkedIn, or those are the ones that I'm on so far, about what you think of the show. And if you want to go a little bit more direct, I'd love that. In fact, you can usually find a link on pretty much all the socials to my email. But the email, if you want to hit me directly, is backseatconfessionspodcast@gmail.com. But yeah, not only would I love to hear your feedback in general, but I would enjoy specifically hearing ideas on ways to expand our interaction and build like community around BCP going forward. Okay, so buckle up and let's get this party bus started. Our first rider today tells a story that honestly is hard for me to wrap my head around when I'm comparing it to my own lived experience in a relatively stable country. Her story reminds me that I have so much to be grateful for. That we really, as Americans, with all of our complaints and problems, that we do have so much to be grateful for. At least for now, we live in a place where the government isn't harassing most of us all the time, and where there is access to plenty of food, and where public utilities are a constant unless there's some kind of major event or whatever. We all learn more in some respects from people that just have different backgrounds from us. And I think we can learn a lot from listening to immigrants.
Story number 42. Monday, November 23, 2020, 2:46 p.m.
Well, my story today is how I left Venezuela with through Colombia with the border closed.
Okay.
Yes. So the night before, there was no electricity where I'm from, in the city where I'm from, which is 4 hours away from the border with Colombia.
Okay.
And at 4 a.m, I left. I slept that night with my mom because, I didn't know what was going to happen. The uncertainty is there. Mm-hmm. And then I left with my uncle and our driver, a trusted driver from ever for years. Yeah. And it was a 4-hour way. The roads are really tough. And then the borders are closed. My cousin, who's an ophthalmologist, had written a letter for me stating that I was losing my left eyesight so I could go to Colombia to buy medicine because nobody could cross the border unless it was for medical reasons. So I had 1.5 suitcases, and my uncle and my dear friend, the driver who lives now in Peru, crossed the border through the pathways, which is mud and a little river.
Wow.
I gave them the money to do that. And there I was with just my purse, actually this same purse that I'm carrying right now,
Wow.
with my little computer in there. My passports were concealed. The letter in my hand, my ID from my country, and I went on the line that was controlled by the army.
Wow.
And they were like super mean. I just didn't want to talk to anybody. I wanted to pretend to be, invisible. The guy who was directing the line approaches me. He's like, "What's wrong with you?" "It's in the paper." That's all I could say. "It's in the paper. I have a problem with my eye." "Okay, keep going." So I went ahead, went on a desk of a lady who inspected all the papers.
Okay.
The girls who were in front of me, she took the paper and she said, "You can't go." With a prescription for a medication, because they didn't have a report, a medical report. The girls in front of me. I'm next. The report was so well written that I'm sure she couldn't understand anything. She said, "What is wrong with you?" And I said, "I'm losing the sight from my left eye and I really need the drops and the other medication that's in there." "Well, but I'm keeping this." So I'm like, "Okay, I have a photocopy." "Okay, you can go."
Wow.
I started walking. My heart was pounding so hard because as we crossed, the bridge was blocked by containers, those like huge containers. And there were more like officers.
Wow.
So I was really scared because they kept asking people for IDs and what were they going to do. Luckily, a lady was trying to come from the other side to this side, from Colombia to Venezuela, with food, and they all kind of jumped on her, telling her that she couldn't bring that in.
Wow.
So I took the moment and I took the chance and started walking really fast.
So they were literally like, there was a distraction and you
There
saw
was a distraction. I saw the moment. I seized it. And when I started seeing the Colombian officers on the other side, I started walking fast, but I didn't want to run.
Right.
So when I walked and walked and walked, I heard a hey back there, but I didn't think it would be me. I'm like, and if it was, I'm not turning around.
Right.
I kept walking. As soon as I passed they don't ask you for ID or anything. They would just let you pass because there were agreements. So I just crossed the bridge, and I see the taxi driver from Colombia who's waiting for me. And I started crying.
Oh my gosh.
And I felt free. I had the last thing that had happened the month before, where we were 5 days without electricity or water.
Wow.
And you ask, how did you survive? Well, poo-pourri helps. I had taken, that from the States last December because I had been here on vacation.
Yep.
And it was the toughest thing. I ate, we prepared meat and some beef. And we had it out where I'm from. It's the weather is cool, like here, like right now, all year round. So we had it out for like 3 days. By day 3, it wasn't that good, but that's all we had to eat. And so as soon as I arrived to Colombia, I felt free.
Yeah. Wow. And then were you okay once you got to Colombia, or did they hassle you? What's that
No,
like?
in Colombia, everything felt so normal.
Wow. Okay.
The sense of normality, you lose it. You lose the sense of normality. You lose that things work normally, that there are not people harassing you, that the government is not harassing you, oppressing you. So they just helped us. I actually, in the books, never left Venezuela because the border was closed. Colombia was accepting Venezuelans' passports without an exit from Venezuela as long as we had like a different ticket or a destination. So they stamped my my entry into Colombia.
Yeah.
And yeah. So that was the move, the passport movement. Like I have the stamp from the entry from Colombia, and then the exit in Bogota.
Yeah.
And then when I came into this country, like I cried so much when the lady said, welcome to the United States. I cried so much.
I can't even imagine. I literally.
Yes, I
cannot
cried
even
so
imagine.
much. And
I'm so grateful that you made it. And I'm so grateful you get to be in my car today.
I
That's incredible.
am so grateful to be here, and I'm so grateful for you and for all the stories that you share. And thank you for sharing my.
Thank you for telling your story, Mika. You're amazing.
Thank you.
So, to be transparent, this beautiful lady has become something of a friend and a fan of this podcast. So I've been able to meet her and her hubby sometime well after she recorded her story. Their story is just quintessentially American. She's from Venezuela, obviously, and he came to the States as a refugee from literally the other side of the world when he was younger. They're from completely different religious and cultural backgrounds, but they found work, home, and love in this crazy experiment, this oldest of all democracies that we call the United States of America. If you listen to me enough, I am very critical of our justice system. I also think our medical and educational system needs a lot of help. But when I sat down with these two lovely people and got to know them a little bit, I'm mostly filled with gratitude at how darn lucky I am to have been born here in the US of A. They literally gushed about how wonderful it is to be here because they know how bad it is in other places in the world, including where they came from. And in defense of myself, part of why I'm so hard on the US, especially in regards to the justice system, is because I believe that we're better than what we're currently doing. And honestly, I do believe in the promise or notion or whatever it is that you want to call it that is the American idea and ideal. But her story and their story also points to a more universal truth that many times the things we complain and bitch about in our life or in our relationships, if we were to trade places with someone else, maybe we would feel just a little differently. So, let's keep learning, listening, traveling, but mostly, let's stay grateful for the many overlooked gifts that are sitting right in front of us. This young lady tells a story of how one guy committing an act of violence on a female friend led to some craziness. Also, I learned when my youngest son was playing football that certain high schools have some real animosity towards each other that, if not managed well, can turn into full-on chaos.
Story number 43. Monday, November 23rd, 2020, 5:50 p.m.
Okay, so I got in a brawl my freshman year.
Your first what?
My freshman year.
Okay.
At a football game.
Wow.
And yeah, it was a really long brawl, and it was at a church.
Oh, you had...
So it was at a church, and it was because my friend I was with, a boy pushed her to the ground on concrete.
Oh my God.
And we hang with a lot of boys, so the boys was like, they didn't like it, so they was like, you know, and then they had sisters. So when they had sisters, we had to fight the sisters. So it was like 10 on 10. So, yeah, and it was, police came.
Ooh.
They had, I don't want to say the SWAT, but I don't know what to call them. They had people pulling up in the little vans with AKs.
Holy.
Because the game was a rivalry game.
Oh, so these weren't. Oh.
So it was like us versus our school rival. So we didn't like them, they didn't like us. So not only was I fighting, but multiple fights were happening. So it was a lot going on. So people were getting arrested. Somebody jumped on top of a car trying to get to me. She split her forehead open. So, yeah, it was a lot going on. But, I mean, I made it out safely.
I was going to say, so you didn't get hurt?
No.
And you didn't get arrested?
No.
Thank God.
I didn't get maced or nothing.
You didn't get maced or anything? Oh, my gosh. So, at the end of it, how many people do you think got hurt or arrested and all that fun stuff?
Okay, so, as far as I know from our school, 15.
Whoa.
The other school, 20.
So this was like, this got big.
Yes, it got so big. It was a shootout at the school.
Wait, what?
Yeah, they got the shooting. That's why the officers came, because they got the shooting.
Oh my gosh. All because some dumb boy pushed your friend down.
Basically.
Did you feel like the whole thing, besides him making that bad move of pushing your friend, do you feel like because you then jumped in to help her, is that kind of what kicked everything off?
Basically, when he pushed her, I feel like it wouldn't have been as bad. But when he pushed her, her whole arm got skinned up. Like, it was a big patch right here.
So you went after the boy at first?
No, when he pushed her, I helped her up. Because when he pushed her so hard, like, her shoes came off.
Oh my gosh, that's crazy.
So when he did that, I was like, wow. And I was like, hold up, we gotta go get Dre, which is her big brother, like her blood big brother.
Yeah.
And we walked up to Dre, and she was bleeding, like her whole arm. It was blood running down because she had like a big skin right here, like a huge one, like from her shoulder to like her forearm was scars were going down.
Jeez.
So when we went to Dre was like, "You're bleeding." It was basically a bad scar. So Dre immediately got upset.
Yep.
So it was like, it wasn't really nothing I could do.
Right, yeah.
I couldn't be like, go over there and not fight him because that's his sister, and he felt like that was unnecessary.
Yeah.
But, yeah, I feel like it could have been stopped if he didn't push her.
Okay.
But we couldn't have hit it from Dre because she lives with Dre. So when he would have walked up to her brother and she's bleeding, it would have still been the same outcome. Like, dang, what happened to your arm?
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah. Then people went to jail because people were spitting on people. It was just a lot going on.
Good Lord. And this was, and the football game was being held at a church?
Okay. So it was at a stadium, a school football stadium.
So
but
what was the church involvement then?
The church is next door to the school.
Okay, gotcha.
Well, not next door, like next door to the stadium.
Okay.
So we jumped the fence and we fought. It was like a little field, but it was connected to the church. But we didn't know that.
Right.
But I looked up and I seen a play set and I was like, what is this? And I looked around. It was basically like a building with a cross. It looked like with a cross on the top.
That's
so I was like,
craziness.
Wow. So
gosh.
It was a long night. Didn't leave until 1:42. That's when I arrived.
Wow. Were your parents freaked out at that point?
No. Because I could pretty much handle myself.
Okay.
And anything happens to me, I will most likely 100% I will call. Because I know how my parents are. And if they feel like I'm in danger or they can't find me, they'll call.
Okay.
So when I got home, of course I told them what happened, because when I woke up the next morning, I was sore, of course, because I got the fine. But I didn't have any bruises or anything.
Jeez.
But
that's crazy. Wow. Well, I am glad you made it out, and that's definitely a crazy experience. I hope next time you think long and hard before getting involved in a big fight like that, though, because, man, you could get so messed up.
And, I'm older. I can go to jail. So I stopped.
Yeah.
I'm older and they can charge me as adult. And
That's right. Yeah.
I talked to a police officer when I went to a game last week, and she was like, "How old are you?" I told her my age.
Yeah.
And she was like, "Let me have a talk with you." She was like, "You don't want to go to jail."
No.
She was like, "It's dirty in there."
Yes, it's nasty.
She was like, "It's girls get their periods and they have to apply for pads. Won't get pads for 2 weeks, so your period will be gone by then.
Right.
So you'll just be bleeding." And that's why she was like, "It smells bad."
Oof.
She was like, "I took a boy in there for his driver's license had just expired like the day before."
Yeah.
That boy, she was like, that boy died because a man thought he stole his honey bun. She was like, "You don't want to go to jail." She was like, "Stay out here." She was like, "You're pretty."
Yep.
She was like,
Yeah.
"You'll go to jail and you'll die just because you're pretty."
Wow.
And I was like, wow.
And you're smart too, so it's like you've got so much going for you. Jail is such a waste of human intellect, and yeah, it's a terrible place to put people. So
Yeah, because I have scholarship.
okay. Oh yeah, where are you going?
I don't know.
You can't say. Okay, don't say.
I don't know.
Okay. All right. No, it's all good. Wow. Well, I just hope and pray, believe that you're going to go to college. You're going to make so much out of your life, and you're not going to get caught up in craziness like that again. But at least you have a great story, right?
Mm-hmm. It was a life. It was something to live.
Right?
For sure.
Yep. Got to have a few good stories in there. You know, you don't want to go out completely unscathed out of life. By the way, you may have thought that I planned for these two stories to go together, or that I knew this one was coming next when I went on my rant about the justice system, but I didn't know what was coming in this story when I talked earlier about the problems in the justice system. I'm grateful that a female officer pulled our young rider here aside and let her know that she needed to change her ways so that she could avoid the hell jail can be. Because in the case of the young man the officer arrested over an issue with his driver's license, he ended up dead in jail over a honey bun? What? I'm going to try to not rant too long here about the injustice system and one-size-fits-all approach to dealing with our people problems, but it's just not serving us as a society well. And really, we're too smart and we're too capable for nonsense like this. Thankfully, more diversionary programs are starting to come out to help keep us from locking up folks that just need to be coached and mentored, and dare I say, maybe even just loved a little, and not thrown away like human debris. Okay, rant over. This next story is about desire and attraction surprising us while we're working on the job and interacting with customers. The public slogan, "Where shopping is a pleasure," might just have a different ring to it after you hear this tale. Oh, and hey honey, I need to make a quick trip to the grocery store and get some raisins.
Story number 44. Tuesday, November 24th, 2020, 6:35 p.m.
I started working at Publix not too long ago, maybe over a year ago. And I had this very, very intense moment with a customer.
Whoa.
It literally started off by him asking me where raisins, what aisle raisins were in. And I was like, oh, well, I know, aisle 7. But the way he looked at me in a very intense way. Like, where are the... Which I might have made up that in my head.
Right.
Because I just found him very attractive.
Yeah.
And I was like, yeah, aisle 7, I can walk you to it. So, we're walking toward the aisle. And as soon as we reached out, because it was right in the corner of the aisle, I bend down because I'm trying to show him where the raisins are.
Yeah.
And I kind of look up towards him, and he kind of gives me this little wink. And I kind of just stood there, a little bit shocked because, that doesn't really happen.
Right.
But come to realize maybe a couple of minutes later, his girl, I guess he was married, comes around the corner and she's like, "Oh, hey, honey, did you find the raisins? Because I guess they were going to make some type of pie."
Right.
And I kind of stood up because I was still on my knees trying to figure out which type of raisins he wanted.
Yeah.
And she looked at me very kind of confused as to why he couldn't find the raisins himself. And I looked at her, "Hey, can I help you? Guys find anything else?" And she was like, No, we got it. And then he looked at, he still stayed behind, and she kind of kept going.
Right.
And no lie, he asked her my number.
Like with her there?
No, she had already left.
Okay.
And I kind of was just like, well, he's a taken man. That's, not my style. So whatever. That kind of just wrapped it up for that day. I kind of just stood with the number. Like, okay, whatever. And he started to become a regular at Publix.
Yeah.
And I was like, okay, is he coming for me, or is he coming just because he just likes being at Publix? So come to find out, he ended up approaching me maybe a couple of days later after me seeing him there a few times. And he ends up telling me that, yes, he's married, but he really doesn't care. And that he would want to take me out one day.
Oh, wow.
And I'm like, wow, I'm flattered.
Yeah.
But I kind of shut it down only because of the whole marriage thing.
Yeah.
Kind of turned me off, I'm not going to lie.
Mm-hmm.
But after that moment, he was kind of more confused as to why. He didn't think him being married was a serious thing, honestly.
Sure. Yeah.
So then a couple of days later, this was maybe 2-3 days later, he comes back to the store with his wife, and I guess he had talked to her about me.
Oh, wow.
And they both approached me trying to do some type of threesome.
Okay, yep.
And I'm like, how did it go from just me and you to now me, you, and her? What in the world?
It's a big leap.
So honestly, now after that, I just started just literally avoiding him.
Okay, yeah.
It was just kind of weird.
Sure.
The weirdest shit ever, to be honest. But don't get me wrong, he was a fine looking guy.
Wow.
If he hadn't been married,
and you definitely,
honestly, I would have for sure given him a shot.
And you weren't interested in doing the whole threesome thing. That was you were like, no.
Honestly, no.
Yeah,
I'm more about that one-on-one.
The one-on-one. Yeah, you're a traditional girl. That's
and
awesome.
plus, I didn't find her attractive like that.
Yeah, that would definitely not.
That has to matter.
Yeah, for sure. Wow, what a fantastic story. And so is he still around anymore? Do you ever see him? Or?
Honestly, this was over 6 months ago.
Okay.
I have not seen him lately, probably in the last, 3 months?
So basically after he made 2 very distinct attempts and you were like, then he was like, all right, I'm out.
He probably was looking for somebody else, honestly.
Yeah. Had to go to another Publix and find another
Heck yeah.
cute
Hey, I don't blame him.
stuff.
Do what you gotta do.
Our friend here did a good job of helping put me in the story with the feeling intensity in the way he looked at her, and then that moment she bends down to pick up the raisins and looks back up at him. Pretty steamy stuff, I'd say. But ultimately, I have to agree with her that this guy seems a little weird. Not trying to judge about being married and looking for something between a side chick and a threesome, but for goodness sakes, if you're going to spring all of that on some unsuspecting person, maybe just find a smoother way to sort of give your pitch. I don't know. Just a thought. This next young lady here has one of those moments that we've all had where we look back and think, what was I thinking? And of course, the answer is, I wasn't thinking, or I wouldn't have gotten myself into that situation.
Story number 45. Tuesday, November 24th, 2020, 7:11 p.m.
So I have two sisters. I'm the third one.
Okay.
And it was one of them's birthday, the middle one.
Yeah.
So we went to a concert for her birthday, and it was like a really last minute thing. So we went to dinner for like her birthday, and then we got tickets to like this last minute thing.
Yeah.
And then so the concert turned out to be really terrible.
Oh no.
Everyone there was like really mean. And, like, they're all, like, teenage girls. And teenage girls are, like, the most judgy people. Yeah. And I say that as, like, myself. So, I mean, I can speak from experience, but it was really... So we just, like, left.
So was the performance good, but the people were not? Or was it all
the performance? The performer came out, like, 2 hours late. And we're, like... We already got there an hour late, first of all.
So it didn't even matter.
Yeah, and then we just stood there and we were just like waiting, and then we were like, all right, we're gonna leave.
Yeah.
So we were walking back to our parking spot, and then so all of a sudden we get catcalled, which is normal just because we're three girls.
Yeah.
Let's be honest, we're very attractive.
Yeah, you guys are adorable, so guys are whistling, all right.
And then so we get catcalled, and then we're not trying to get like abducted or something, so
right.
We like respond like respectfully / ignore it.
Mm-hmm.
And then but they get stopped at the next light, and then they're like, hey, do you guys know where to park? And then so the sisters whose birthday it was, she was like, oh yeah, just park like up here and everything. And he's like, hey, can you show us? And she's like, yeah. She's
a little naive.
Yeah.
Oh, no.
She's the older one too.
Oh.
And then so he was like, okay, yeah, you guys can come on in then. And then so we ended up getting into his car.
Oh, ow.
Yeah. But
ow.
we got into his car, and then there were like two other people there. There's one in the passenger seat, another dude in the back. And then she was like, guys, don't try anything. I have pepper spray. And he was like, no, you don't try anything. I have a gun.
Oh.
And then, which is why I was like, this story is like so crazy. It's like, it's probably not the safest to tell, but I think it's really funny just because like looking back on it now.
Yeah.
But yeah, and then we were like, oh my God, what are we going to do? But he actually turned out to be like one of the nicest people we've ever met.
Right, yeah.
And then, we got to our parking spot safely, and then he parked next to us and everything. And then, it was actually pretty uneventful after that. But,
but you had that moment where like, this could go really sideways. Well, I'm glad that the guy with the gun just turned out to be a regular nice guy, because obviously a large portion of Americans have guns or concealed weapons or whatever, and
it was just really unexpected.
And you definitely don't want to be in a stranger's car, all girls versus all guys, and
definitely it was scary.
I would be terrified if you were my child. I'd be like, no.
But anyway, that was my crazy story.
So I look at my role while I'm talking to riders, mostly just as to be at like a safe place to share and of course obviously interact with the folks that are telling their story without too much judgment, because God knows I've done some pretty crazy stuff in my lifetime. But being a dad and having a daughter that is a young adult, I can't help but sometimes have a heart-stopping moment when I hear a story like this, because I'm imagining if I was her dad and if something had gone terribly wrong, just how devastating that would be. But thank God, nothing bad happened, and the stranger with the truck was a cool guy. Way to go, dude. In the pantheon of crazy stories I've heard, this one gets the award for Wildest Night in Atlanta. Full stop. I would put this young lady's experience up against whatever you think the craziest night out on the town story you've ever heard is. Also, in the weird world of serendipity, this story, like the young lady right before her, has elements of getting in random guys' vehicles that end up having guns on them. In this particular case, though, that is probably not the wildest part of the story. Okay, strap in, ladies and gentlemen, because in the next 5.5 minutes, approximately, you're in for a night that really should be made into a movie. And by the way, don't mess with a little person's girlfriend when she has a can of pepper spray on her little personhood. It could get messy.
Story number 46. Tuesday, November 24th, 2020, 8:46 p.m.
All right, so I recently moved to Atlanta, and one of my sorority sisters decided to come visit me one weekend.
Right.
I said, okay, that's fine, you know, come visit me. So she comes to visit me, and one of the nights we're about to go out, and she hands me my drink because we're drinking before our Uber gets there.
Right. Well,
And a
pregame.
couple minutes into me drinking the drink, she tells me that it's Molly water. And so
Wait,
at this point, she proceeds. She's like, yeah, like there's Molly in that E. I was like, oh, okay. Well, all right. I guess we're going on a trip tonight.
Right.
So we walk out the house, and I turn around and realize, oh, I left my keys inside. The door is locked. So now I've locked myself out of my house. There's no spare, nothing. I'm gonna have to call a locksmith. At this point, I'm starting to like roll. I'm starting to trip a little bit.
Right.
And I'm just like, fuck it. All right, we're leaving. We're going out.
Yep.
So the first location we go to, we end up going into the club with Boosie. I don't know if you know who that is.
Mm-hmm.
So we go into the club with him.
Yep.
After that's done, we're about to go to the strip club, and we're outside waiting for another Uber, and there's a little person falling over. Like she's drunk as hell. And she's falling over. Her girlfriend is drunk as well.
Oh my
and
God.
they start getting into a fight, like an altercation with the security. So then the cops pull up. The little person proceeds to pepper spray the cop. A group of girls runs out of the club, starts like running into the scene. And at this point, more cops pull up, and it's just the whole crowd fighting the police. And then the security pulls out machine guns. Somebody's holding like a gun at the head of the girlfriend. And me, mind you, I'm just on Molly. Like I'm sitting here watching the whole thing. Like the security had to push me and my friend back because she and I were just sitting there with our mouths open like, wow,
My jaw's hanging out.
This
So the
is
little
really
person
happening.
sprayed the cop.
Maced the cop, and then you see the little person. All I saw at the end was this little person getting thrown into the cop car. So mind you, we're still on Molly, so our judgment,
Right.
isn't the greatest. Life
No.
feels great though. We're just like, wow. But no, an Uber was not about to pull up to this scene
No.
because all you see is a group of people fighting.
Right.
So these two guys that we had seen inside, they ask us like, oh, are you going like to after hours here, like at the place we were going to?
Yeah.
And we were like, yeah. We were like, we shouldn't get in the car with strangers, but like, fuck, we're gonna get in the car with strangers.
We're on Molly,
They ask
so-
us if we want to like hit this blunt. We're okay, so now we're smoking, we're getting even more high. And at this point we get to the strip club. We're at Magic City, as I'm sure you've heard of.
Oh yeah, of course.
We walk into Magic City. A security guard starts flirting with my friend. We've proceeded to like ditch the guys we got there with.
Right.
We get inside, finesse a table, and somebody just hands me a stack of ones. Like, I don't know whose ones. I don't know. So I'm just still on Molly in the club at Magic City, just throwing ones. There's strippers. It's a lot going on. So then we meet these girls from Toronto, because when you're on Molly, you can't stop talking. So
Okay.
I could not stop talking. Like, I'm
Wow.
talking to everybody around me. And they're like, oh, you want to hit this? I'm like, oh, yeah, sure. Why do I hit the blunt? And it was dipped in codeine. At this point, this is where it starts to get blurry. So
My
after that, the homegirl once again accepts a ride from a stranger. So at this point, we're in the car with another stranger.
Yeah.
We stop at a red light, and we see a car like slowly pulling up on his car on the left side. I'm in the back seat, like half, like I didn't know that I hit the codeine blunt at this point. I just knew I was messed up. I look over to the left side, and it's like a car rolling up on him. He pulls out a gun.
No.
And is holding it out the window at the other people. There's about to be a shootout. Me and my homegirl,
sweet
I
girl.
must have. We both get out the car and start running. They start shooting at each other.
No.
We're running down the street. We run to like some side little alleyway. We're like hiding till we hear them like driving away. I'm like, what the fuck? This is your fault. Like, I can't believe this. And then after that, we ended up Ubering home. I still had to call the locksmith because I was still locked out. And then, yeah, at that point, it was like 7 a.m. called the locksmith, $120 to unlock my door.
Painful.
And that was one of my first nights in Atlanta.
Girl, that is literally one of the crazy, and I've heard some crazy stories. I think I'm giving you the cake right now.
There was no cap.
I mean,
really
no.
all happened.
I mean, we've got little people, we've got machine guns, we've got codeine Molly. I mean, it's
everything.
That is the most extra but totally believable story I've ever heard in my life.
That's Atlanta. That's Atlanta.
Now you wish you hadn't come from where you came from, or you're like, this is the greatest place ever.
You know, I had to sit down after that one.
Yeah,
I took a seat for a while.
Yeah, Atlanta, we're gonna take you a little bit bite by bite, not so.
Yes, but that's my little confessional story, craziest story. That's really the only night I could think of that was like the craziest night of my life. Like,
it takes the cake.
Yes.
Man, thank you so much for your story. That was
welcome.
Incredible. See, I told you. The riders in BCP deliver. I mean, come on. There's a little something for everyone here. Besides experiencing the world through Molly, codeine, weed, and alcohol, simultaneously, might I add, we have fights between cops and little people, crowds and security with automatic weapons. We have famous Atlanta strip clubs and rappers. We have large amounts of cash mysteriously appearing in our new friend's hand to throw around as one does in a strip club. We have multiple rides in strange guys' cars, and a good old-fashioned Atlanta shootout between dudes with too much car and not enough sense. And it all ends up with coming home the way you want to, right? After a really good night, by having to spend $120 just to get yourself back into the peace and safety of your own place, because you locked yourself out of the house on the way out to the night of your life. Okay, let's all just take a couple of big breaths now. First of all, you may have noticed that all of our stories today came from the ladies. Goes to show you that adventure is not just for those of us on the more dude side of the scale. From escaping a crumbling country where your life is literally on the line, to rolling hard on Molly through the wildest night of your party life, these beautiful ladies inspire me not to live small. I mean, not to be a Donnie Downer here, but truly, everyone is going to die at some point. I mean, you're terminal from the moment you take your first breath here on this wild, wonderful ride we call life. So, while most of the time we should use our heads and make good choices, sometimes you just have to take a risk and walk on the wild side. You may be escaping a life that has become a prison, or you may be moving across the country to start a new adventure. But whatever your situation, when the moment is right, my friend, take that leap. There's a sign in my office that I really love, and it reminds me, and I'll leave this here as a close, to live a good story. This is what happens when you are a rideshare driver in Atlanta and ask people for their stories. These weren't handpicked people with great stories. They just happened to get in my car and be gracious enough to share with all of us. And who knows, maybe someday you'll be in Atlanta and need to grab a rideshare and end up telling the rest of us the next great story on BCP. I'd actually encourage you to, every so often, just ask a stranger to share a story from their life. You never know what you might learn. I believe that our stories are powerful. They can make you laugh, cringe, cry, or even get you to think or feel differently. Our stories can truly make this world a a little bit better place. So please subscribe, rate, and listen to this podcast and share it with as many adults as possible. It would mean so much to me. First and foremost, I want to thank the incredible writers who trusted me with your stories. You're my heroes. Thanks also to all the people in the background who have believed in this project/dream. All of the music on this podcast was found on pixabay.com, and it was free, which is an amazing gift when you're starting a podcast on a shoestring budget.